right, by now, guys, you know I love talking about old wrestling. What you might not know is it's not my real passion. My real passion is helping people save money. My real passion is getting families out of apartments and into houses. My real passion is getting people's finances aligned so they can retire on time. I hated going to Walmart and seeing the greeter being 80 years old. She should not be working. She should be home. Why is she still working? Because she still has a mortgage. I want to help avoid that for you. The other thing I want to help you with, let's make sure your kids don't get saddled with student loans. If you've got a student loan, why did you get one? Maybe because your parents still had a mortgage. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm being sincere. There's only so much money to go around. What I want to help you do is figure out where you are right now and where you want to be long term. And I do it at SaveWithConrad.com. I've been doing mortgages for more than 20 years. And during all that time, we've helped tens of thousands of families change their life. I mean, routinely, we're helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. But more importantly, get them out of debt faster and with cheaper monthly payments. But if you don't think it can happen for you, let me just tell you this. We are not the bank. We don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. We're going to get you a game plan on how to improve your credit, how to save a little bit of cash, and how to get into that dream house. Maybe you're already in the house, but it would be nice if someday we could put a pool in the back, or one day we want to upgrade to hardwood floors, or remodel the kitchen, or get a badass master bathroom. I can help you do all of that with no money out of pocket right now at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. Check it out, SaveWithConrad.com, NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. And hey, y'all, don't take my word for it. Check us out. We've got an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. And as if that's not enough, go look at our reviews. Read them and weep, haters. ConradReviews.com. You'll see more than 1,000 5-star reviews. Our average review is 4.72 stars. Find out how much money you can save. Take control of your life in 2023 by taking control of your finances. We're going to show you how to keep more of your own money. If you've got credit card debt, what are you paying on that? 14%? 28%? You know you can do better. With the mortgage, though, you may not know this, the interest you pay is tax deductible. And we can even show you how to skip your next 2 house payments. So if you could get a lower monthly payment, pay your debt off faster, get a greater tax deduction at the end of the year, and right now, right after the holidays, skip your next 2 payments, buddy, this is the biggest no-brainer in the history of the world. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com, or hey man, shoot me an email directly, Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, Connie. I'm good. Ready for another big week. A little AEW action toward the end of the week, and so things are good. That show's really improved, I tell you. My hat's off. I said this last week. Tony Khan and his crew for not, I don't say loading it up, but making it a better quality show with better quality athletes on a more regular basis. So that's a good move, and I think it'll show eventually in the ratings. The ratings will come up and down. You know, we have a hard time. People have a hard time finding us because of the NBA schedule and so forth. So, but things are looking up, and it's going to be a good week. I can tell you that. I feel good. It's going to be a good week.
It is going to be a good week, and we're on our march towards a lot of big stuff happening in AEW. Of course, as we all know, tickets go on sale this week for All In 2. It's happening across the pond. As I understand it, there's more than 60,000 folks who are registered for the pre-sale. This is going to be a happening. Tickets go on sale tomorrow. AEWTIX.com is where you normally snag those tickets. I understand that Ticketmaster over in the UK is handling a lot of this, and man, the seat map that came out, this is going to be, I mean, listen, you said it a few weeks ago. Sometimes we throw around the word history too much in wrestling, but this really is going to be a historic event and the biggest in AEW history by a mile. On a scale of 1 to 10, how big is this for AEW, Jim?
Oh, it's a 10. It's a 10, potentially a 10. You wonder how many people are actually going to buy tickets that registered. One would assume that more will and won't of those that registered. I don't know why you would register if you didn't want to buy tickets, but nonetheless, it's a crazy world of wrestling. 60,000 inquiries. So if they all bought one ticket, which they won't, you got a pretty good house.
Right.
So I haven't seen the seat map. I know Raphael Morphy laid it out. He talked to me about it, but they did a good job with that. So I'm very curious to see what our numbers will be at the, let's say, the end of the weekend, as far as tickets and stuff are concerned. So it looks like it's going to be good, man. It looks like it's going to be a real good house, and it'll be exciting for our crew to work that event in that famous stadium, and it's got to be exciting for those young kids that are going to be wrestling, because it's a historic venue, it's a historic marketplace. The UK has always been an amazing pro wrestling uh, area, territory, whatever you want to say. So I think we're going to do well. I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. I know I'm going over early, as a matter of fact. Don't have the dates yet, but I'm going over early to do some media work, some promotional work, which I'm looking forward to. I got a lot of friends in the media there that I'll be reconnecting with, so it's going to be fun. So all good, man. Big week. This is a huge week. I don't know that there's ever been a bigger week for AEW than this week, basically because of obviously the on sale for the UK event.
It's going to be a huge week. You know, there's lots of rumors and innuendo out there. Of course, we're not in here to discuss all that today. Hey, this is a fact, though, Jack. AEW is coming to Wembley Stadium. Tickets are on sale tomorrow, so be sure to pick those up. And by God, about a week from now, it's going to be a cage match on Dynamite. Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley goes down just 6 days from today, and it's a cage match. I assume this is going to be a bloody affair. These guys are no stranger to bloody battles. Back in November of 2019 at Full Gear, and they're in Baltimore. Boy, they put on quite a show. And it's a little ironic that here we are on the go home for that episode last night, also from Baltimore. So,
All right.
what do you expect here? Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley inside a steel cage.
It should be excellent. You know, it really should. There's no excuse. Both guys seem to be healthy, which is a key. You know, Kenny's had a lot of nagging injury type things, missed some time, but the last several times he's had an outing, he's looked great. Moxley, same. It'll be physical because both those guys, that's just their calling card. And there will, I don't know, nobody's told me, I haven't got the blood memo yet, but you would assume, that's all I'm doing, is assuming that in a cage match with two old school guys, there'll be a little juice flowing here, there, and yon. So we'll see. It should be a hell of a, but it really should be a hell of a match. That's a showcase for those guys. And if it's put on the card where they're not stretched on time, the last thing I do is put the son of a bitch on last, because, you know, you get guys that can't tell time and they go over their time limit for their segments. Then you got to find it somewhere. So then you got to rob Peter to pay Paul, as they say, and that means that somebody's going to get shorted. And the last thing you want to short is your main event cage match, as you're going to be building everything around for that show. So it ought to be a really a hell of a match. Old school, physical, tough, and you got a lot of interested parties. Kenny Omega and his allies, and certainly all the team members of the Blackpool Combat Club being available. And I don't know how you have a match that many people and not have some of those guys get available. So we'll see what role the cage plays in and all that stuff. But my only suggestion would be I'd make sure that I covered my ass on time. You're doing a live show, you can't create more time. It's not like doing Rampage where you can edit.
Right.
So, you know, I think that putting it on not last, maybe first in the of the night. The cage would already be down. That's just a suggestion. But the cage, that's not a bad way to start the show either. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's a great thing about pro wrestling, man. It can change on a dime and leave 9 cents change.
I can't wait. It's going to be fun to see those guys hook it up in a cage match. It has a big fight feel because it's been announced so far in advance. And man, the biggest fight that AEW is going to fight is going to happen in London, August 27th, AEWTIX.com. Those go on sale tomorrow. Before we talk about our topic today, Jim, and it's going to be a fun show. We're doing a watch along from 25 years ago, 1998. This is peak WWE. The company is going to be more profitable and generate more revenue and just celebrate all new heights in 1998. It is a stark contrast from just a couple of years prior. But before we do that, you and I can't help ourselves. We're big football junkies. I feel like we should at least talk about it. You had 5 Oklahoma Sooners make their way into the NFL this past week. As I understand it, Alabama had 10. Like they were tied with Georgia. I think the SEC leads with draft picks for maybe the 17th year.
Yeah.
Were you surprised to see Bryce Young go overall number 1? And how do you think
No.
he'll do with the Panthers?
I think he was the right pick.
Yeah.
Classy kid, great parenting. The results are there. I'm not worried about if he's 6 feet or 5'11" or whatever. He's a winner, and when you can get that many positive results playing for Nick Saban, you're doing something right. So I think that was a good draft. I thought the Eagles had the best draft because it seemed like they invaded Athens, Georgia, deeper than most people perceive that they might.
Right.
So Georgia's still a lot of kids. That defense of 2 years ago, you could still feel the impact of it by how many kids got drafted off their defense.
Yeah.
Were underclassmen coming back. So I enjoyed it. I watched pretty much all the draft. The first 2 days I watched pretty religiously. The last day I was a little bit sporadic because I was sharing my time with the XFL game. My buddy Bob Stoops.
Yeah.
He's a coach of Arlington and Arlington, Texas, and the Renegades. So they were not supposed to win. They were the big underdog, and the winner goes to the title game. So they backed their way into the championship. They meaning the Renegades, and so I shared time there. It was a hell of a sports weekend, and when you add in the NBA stuff, who the hell thought that Seth Curry was going to go off and score 50, and then to eliminate Sacramento at home in Sacramento. So a lot of good NBA stuff ongoing, and so for a sports fan, especially like me, who's just here batching it, it was cool, man. It was a lot of good stuff on television.
A lot of great stuff. Of course, the XFL championship right around the corner. Our pal Cole Kublik was on the call for the other game this week. So I'm excited to see that all come to a head. And I'm excited to see how some of these other draft picks do in the NFL. Will Anderson, also from Alabama, went number 3 to Houston, Texas. Right after they got CJ from Ohio State. Houston, Texas fans got to be really excited and motivated today.
That was a smart move by the GM to make that trade for the 3rd pick. And so they got a potential foundation piece. They meaning Houston, the Texans. They got a foundation piece that on both sides of the ball.
Yes, they did.
They got their quarterback and they got their defensive playmaker that can play outside linebacker or rush end on defense. So 2 great players. I mean, there's a lot of experts that thought that Will Anderson was right. Will Anderson, I said it right, was the best defensive player in the draft. Him or that big defensive tackle that had that unfortunate car accident, who went in the first round to Philadelphia. So Houston had a good draft too. I just thought in overall depth that maybe just as what I recall, that the Eagles maybe had a little bit better draft picks than 2. That's all I'm saying. All you got to do is go to Athens and draft a bulldog.
Right. No kidding.
They got players. Hey, he's following the footsteps of his mentor, Nick Saban. It's simple, man. Players win games. Wrestlers, great talents, earn TV ratings. Greatness sells. Success sells. No matter what you do in life, success sells as a rule. I'm sure we could create an exception to the rule, but it's not very likely that's going to hold water. So I had a good weekend. I mean, it's probably a good thing that I wasn't married or dating anybody because I would have been a very poor host because I was locked in. I was locked in on the football and other stuff.
Well, let's talk a little wrestling before we hit our topic from 25 years ago. Over the course of the last week, we saw Trinity Fatu show up. She is now a part of the Impact roster. I think a
Right.
lot of people were curious after she and Sasha walked out of WWE. What's next for her? We've seen Sasha have success for New Japan. I think she was their first women's champion, maybe their second women's champion. I think that belt's off of her now, but still, she's doing big things with New Japan,
Yeah.
and people are loving, Mercedes Monet. But now we know where Trinity is. And I have to admit, I was really proud that Impact was able to pull this off. This feels like a big signing for Impact, and maybe it's time for a new paint and coat for Trinity. This should be fun.
Yeah, she's such a nice person too. More importantly to me, a locker room person, a good citizen, wrestling citizen in her community. So I think she'll help anybody. I'm like you, Connie. I was surprised she went there, uh, and not because I thought she was coming to work for AEW, but that wouldn't have been a bad landing spot either for her. It adds to the ongoing depth initiative, getting more talents that can work and that has some experience, and adding a piece here and a piece there to continue to build that division. So, but I'm hopeful she'll do well. It's she's just such a sweetheart. I remember having several talks with her back in the day. She just was like any young talent that had never been on this particular piece of highway before. She wasn't sure what her destination was going to be. She knew what she wanted it to be, but what she was concerned about, as are most young talents, when's it going to happen? How long do I have to wait? What can I expect? And so she'll do well for those guys. That's you said a coup. I'd say it was a coup. Why
Yeah,
not?
yeah.
She's main evented some huge events, and she's very talented, very creative. So and you get motivated talents like that, Conrad, that come in. They want to express their own creativity, and that may be one of the things that let her out of WWE. I don't know, but that's a viable option, I guess. Her, you know, her not having a say in her own TV persona. You always want to motivate your talents to come and join in their creative. If you do, they're a lot more likely to pull it off in a big manner if it's partly their idea. And I don't know why you'd not want a talent to be involved in creative. So but she'll do good there. I'm glad you brought that up. She's a sweet person, and she's an addition. She's really a hell of an athlete, hell of an athlete. So good luck to her and Impact. They got them a good one.
Yes, they did. And you guys got a good one too. Since we recorded last, we saw the debut of another superstar to the AEW roster, former NXT standout Roderick Strong. Now got his AEW jersey. I've been a fan of Roddy since, I don't know, '04, back in the Ring of Honor days.
Yeah.
Generation Next. I mean, this guy, the master of the backbreaker, he's done his duty with NXT, and now he's here to show AEW what he's all about. It's pretty cool to see that you guys are still able to find some of these talent. I have to admit, I didn't even know Roddy was available, so it was a pleasant surprise. It was a fun show.
Well, I was aware he was available. I just wasn't aware of what he wanted to do.
Right.
If he want to get back in the game full time and invest, which he did apparently. He signed. He's a hell of a good guy. I like him. He's another one of those guys that you value having around your other talents and having in the locker room. least based on my personal experience and what I've seen here since he's joined our team. But good get by Tony Khan. He's a very experienced hand. He can work with anybody. He could be a heel. He could be a baby face. And him coming in and being a support person for Adam Cole fits just perfectly.
Well said. And what else fits perfectly is Henson Shaving. HensonShaving.com is somewhere JR and I think you need to go see. We are so impressed with this product. It really is the favorite razor I've ever owned. And a lot of that is just because of the way it's made. It's got an old school feel. It's the same dual edge razor setup like your grandfather used to use, but they're using new age tech. Let me explain. Henson Shaving is a family owned aerospace parts manufacturer. This family's made parts for the International Space Station and the Mars rover, and now they're bringing that precision engineering to your face. They use aerospace grade CNC machines to make the thinnest razors you've ever seen. Seriously, they extend just 0.0013 inches. It's worth mentioning. It's 0.0013 inches. That's less than the thickness of a human hair. Now, what that means for you is a more secure and more stable blade that allows for a vibration-free shave. It also has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream, and it makes clogging virtually impossible. What I love most about Henson Shaving is just the genius minds behind this product. You see, Henson Shaving wanted to make the best razor, not the best razor business. Let me elaborate. If you really want to make the best razor business, you want to make people sign up for a hokey subscription. You want to send them pieces of plastic. You want to switch up your design so you can't use the old one anymore. Now you got to get the new one. Like if you have an iPhone, you know what I'm talking about. And you need proprietary blades. Like this will only fit on this or that. You can't. Here's the thing. This is an old school razor. It's very sturdy, very durable. I think it's the last one you'll ever need. I mean, they don't say it's going to last a lifetime, but I feel like it will. It's old school, man. It's heavy duty. But it takes a dual-edged blade. Now, you can just find those anywhere. But the Henson razors, these Henson blades, are 0.0013 inches. So you get the old school feel, but the benefits of new school tech. Now, normally when something is better, it costs more money. That's what has blown me away the most about Henson Shaving. You see, the razors I was using before, I'd go down to the drugstore. They kept them under lock and key. They were so expensive. That's not going to be the case here. Let me explain. Once you own the razor, it's $3 to $5 to replace the blades. Not $3 to $5 a week, not $3 to $5 a month, not $3 to $5 a quarter, $3 to $5 a year. Let's say no to subscriptions. Let's say yes to a razor that'll last you a lifetime. Go right now, HensonShaving.com/JR. Pick the razor for you. Use the code JR, and you'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just be sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades when you head to HensonShaving.com/JR and use the promo code JR. And Jim, this is maybe my favorite razor I've ever had. What do you think of the Henson razor?
Oh, they're great. They're consistent, and you can't beat the technology on manufacturing the blades. Can't beat it. So, highly recommend it. If you shave, then I highly recommend it. And I'm sure some people use it to shave things other than their face.
Wow. Okay.
Legs.
I mean, listen, it does work. I've seen my wife use it on her legs and her underarms, and
there you go.
Listen, why not? It works everywhere. It's HensonShaving.com/JR. Be sure to use that promo code. Get yourself a whole bunch of free blades. So, Jim, listen, there's lots of wrestling news and stuff going on, but what we're really here to celebrate today and talk about is 25 years ago. I can't believe this is real. WWE's hotter than ever. Of course, you ended the Monday Night War streak at 83 weeks on April 13th. And it was that infamous episode where Vince McMahon accepted Stone Cold's challenge when Stone Cold said, I could beat you with one arm tied behind my back. Of course, we know the match never happened. Instead, it became a launch pad for a heel Dude Love. Of course, last we saw Mick Foley, he was with Terry Funk, getting absolutely destroyed the night after WrestleMania, and fans were chanting for Austin. He cut sort of a heelish promo the next week, and then bam, a heel Dude Love is here. We're going to talk about all of that, catch you up on where we are, and this is going to be a lot of fun, man. I love doing watch-alongs, love doing these with you, and I'm ready for this one. So without further ado, let's get to it, man. We're doing a special show here. It's season 6, episode 18. That's season 6, episode 18 for Raw is War. And we're ready to go. Here we go in 3, 2, 1, play. And of course, we're watching this over on Peacock. Hopefully, you're watching along with us.
That Peacock's turned out to be a hell of a deal for WWE. What a great business move. And you have to wonder what would happen to Peacock if they didn't have wrestling. But nonetheless, I digress.
Should I fire Stone Cold Steve Austin? Not yet.
Instead, Mr. McMahon suddenly ordered the Rattlesnake to defend the title again. This time hand-picking the referee, his longtime friend and WWF official Gerald Briscoe. And the WWF owner armed Briscoe with some special stipulations.
If Stone Cold Steve Austin lays one finger on you tonight, Austin's contract will be terminated and it will be immediate revocation of the WWF Championship.
I think he just handed away the WWF belt for the last time.
Wait a minute, here comes the owner of the World Wrestling Federation.
He just sent away the regular timekeeper. He sent him to the back.
And also
Touch him and you're done. You touch him and you're through.
and Briscoe's almost told him Austin to touch him.
Well, they already warned him.
That's not objective officiating.
I know who Vince McMahon wants to be champion. Anybody but Stone Cold Steve Austin. Look at this.
Austin with a Stone Cold Stunner. It's over. It is. Come on, make the count.
No. No,
That's all of it.
Something's in his eye.
What do you mean something in his eye? Here comes Dude Love. Dude Love now assaulting Austin. Austin fighting for his life.
Look out.
Briscoe trying. McMahon's got that belt. Hit Briscoe. Man can't believe it.
Good old Gerald.
So, Jim, you can see they're editing here in post. Like they were blurring out the double fingers here. And here you see Jerry Briscoe bleeding, and boom, we're going into the hot open here. What do you think about
this? Was a great open, too. Just kind of new and fresh, gritty to fit the Attitude Era. And it did very well. Good
Dave
stuff.
Sahadi told us about the creation of this.
Yeah.
And he gave us a little heads up that the dogs barking when they recorded this and then showed it to someone. Someone said, "Oh, I don't remember the dogs being there." Yeah, they weren't. We stole it from a video game commercial we saw on MTV. So the dogs were not there. And we did talk about the fire explosions and setting the ropes on fire, and how maybe occasionally you have to take a walk. The fire chief. That conversation's up now with Mr. David Sahadi over at adfreeshows.com. We'll have Silva kill the audio here, but man, you're coming in with a hot open. The crowd is going bananas. Do you miss the sign era, Jim?
Absolutely. I love the signs. I wish people would bring more of them. I've seen more gradually in AEW, but there's nothing has replicated the signage like we have in this era right here we're seeing today.
No doubt.
Good stuff. It's a commitment when you make a sign and you bring it from home and you get in your seat and you drag the damn thing around. And you hope that nobody snatches it from you because of something controversial. There's the heel, Mick Foley.
How great is this? Let's track Foley here. He's not dressed like Dude Love here. He's out in Mick Foley gear.
Right.
Does anybody here know my name? Because to tell you the truth, I don't know who the hell I am anymore. At Unforgiven, I beat Stone Cold Steve Austin
No, I do not have the heavyweight title, but I came real close. And for those of you who've never been on the receiving end of a stone cold ass kicking, let me tell you, it doesn't feel all that good. And if you were to ask Stone Cold Steve Austin how he felt the next day, well, he probably would say he didn't feel a whole hell of a lot better. So now how do I get rewarded for my efforts at Unforgiven? By receiving a rematch? No. By being proclaimed the #1 contender? No. You see, that honor went to Goldust. The last time I checked my resume, I was going head-to-head with the heavyweight champion of the world. The last time I checked the resume of Goldust, that panty-wearing pansy, he was wearing a black teddy in a women's negligee match. And now, the WWF has informed me that I am to wrestle Terry Funk in a no-holds-barred Falls Count Anywhere match. And I guess I know what Vince McMahon must be thinking. Hey, let those two kill each other and I won't have to deal with him anymore.
They're best friends, you know, folks.
You see, I don't have all the answers, but I do know a few things. Number one, I'll be damned if I'm gonna throw away 13 years of hard work by sucking up to a lowlife like Vince McMahon.
Wow.
Dramatic week. Dramatic month.
Number two, I'll be damned if I'm gonna let my wife and kids see me bumping and grinding with a couple of second-rate strippers on national television. And number three, I'll be damned if I perform in this stuff ever again.
That's his dude love attire.
What I'd like right now is to have Vince McMahon out here because I, Cactus Jack, want some answers, and I want them right now.
He seems very confused this week, JR.
I am
Very
waiting on
distressed.
your reply. Vince McMahon, if you are a man, you come out here and face the music.
So, Jim, let me ask you this. This is a taped show. It was taped April 28th in Richmond, Virginia. It's airing on May 4th here. Is there more or less pressure on a taped show from an announcer standpoint? I know from a performer standpoint, we can always edit it later. But were you doing commentary live to tape here, or are you Are you doing this after the fact?
No, live to tape. Just better that way, Conrad. Live to tape is the way we went.
Yeah.
But you will not make me dress up like a horse's ass ever. Are we understood? Are we?
Mick Foley, a very unstable human being here tonight.
Meltzer said Vince's response here is one of the best promos in wrestling history.
You got guts enough to call me out here before you? Me, the owner of the World Wrestling Federation? You got guts enough to call me out here before you and all these people? Who the hell do you think you are?
That's the problem. I don't think he knows who he is.
Let me tell you something. Sure, you hold a victory over Stone Cold Steve Austin Unforgiven, but you didn't get the job done because Stone Cold Steve Austin is still the World Wrestling Federation champion. And the next night, sure, Goldust becomes the #1 contender. How do you react? You kvetch, you bitch, you cry, you moan just like all these other people would at their lost opportunity. Because you see, they have to make excuses. When they don't get that raise, they don't get that promotion, they have to make excuses. I would expect better from you. And then you think I'm trying to punish you by booking you in a match with your best friend, Terry Funk, a no-holds-barred match?
Yes, I do.
That's not a punishment. That's reward. That's what it is, a reward.
Well, how do you figure that? Good question.
Because I believe that you and I are a lot alike. I believe that you recognize this as it truly is. You see, I take adversity and turn it into triumph. This match that you have with your best friend is an opportunity. And that's what I give better than anyone in the world. Opportunity. Don't you see? Can't you clearly see this picture? Who have you been listening to? Because if you seize this moment, if you take your best friend out to this ring tonight, and you not only beat him, but you beat him an inch from his life. If you tear him limb from limb, if you reach into his chest and pull out his heart and hold it and the blood drips down all over you, then you would have made the kind of sacrifice that's necessary to be the #1 contender, the kind of sacrifice that's necessary to beat Stone Cold Steve Austin, the kind of sacrifice that's necessary to be the World Wrestling Federation champion. I've got faith in you. I've got confidence in you. Because I believe deep down in that demented cranium, you can do it. You can do it. You can seize this opportunity and once again become the #1 contender for the World Wrestling Federation Championship.
Mr. McMahon pulling a Lombardi here.
Mr. McMahon is very convincing,
When I
to say the
came
least.
out here, you threw Dude Love into my face. How does it feel for me to throw the truth into yours?
A big-time pep talk from Mr. McMahon.
Mr. McMahon's getting inside.
What do you think, Jim?
Oh, wait just a minute.
What a segment.
Yeah, long segment to set the stage for the rest of the night. Nobody could do it better than Vince and Mick. Then, of course, here comes the star of the show, and the crowd reacting accordingly. I don't think I've ever been around a wrestler, Conrad, that got the audience support, the noise they made,
Yes.
passion they demonstrated more than Steve. He just connected with the audience. And I've said that many times, a talent's got to be able to listen and connect to their audience. What is their audience buying? What does their audience want to see? And Austin always had a great feel for that.
So what we're seeing is Austin destroy the Dude Love set, and he's doing it right in front of Cactus Jack, who seemingly does not care. But Vince down the ramp, not too happy about seeing his investment stomped on. I think you and I were both big Cactus Jack fans, and certainly it made sense, and I get why people were excited about the introduction of the Dude Love character. But Dude Love as a heel, what do you think of that?
Well, I didn't think it was a great idea, to be honest with you, because he was so beloved, he meaning Mick. So I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I thought, if anybody can make this thing work, it's us.
Yes.
And I'm not so sure that Mick was just the total 100% heel, the villain. He was the adversary. He was the challenger. And the adversaries and the challengers don't always have to be on the other side of the political fence, i.e.
There you go.
heel or babyface. You just don't. And so after what Steve did here, Mick's name identity, I started feeling better about the heel aspect of it. But I don't really believe it was total heel for Mick after that promo and his confrontation with the boss.
when do you think, because there's been, we're watching The Rock come out here with the Nation of Domination. He's got the stronghold here. He's trying to be the leader of the nation. Of course, Farouk is on the outs. I wanted to ask, like, from your perspective, when do you remember the formula becoming what it became for Monday Night Raw, where it seemingly starts with that in-ring 15 or 20-minute promo to start the show? Now, that's not exactly what happened. They were on the stage, but still, it starts heavy on story with a long dissertation, and that became sort of par for course for WWE along the way, like during Triple H's reign of terror, or during the Authority era, or just, I don't know, the last 20 years or so. When do you remember that being a shift? Because it didn't, I mean, Monday Night Raw didn't always start that way. It used to start, we're coming right into matches, and that was the Nitro way more often than not. We're going to throw the luchadors out there and we're going to start hot. But then in the WWE, it does feel like there became a formula. Let's put our top stars, our top storyline out there first and sell the story, not the physicality. When do you remember that happening? Was it this era or before or after?
I think it was during this era, Conrad, that we started off these shows with a promo, a scene setter.
Yes.
It's all it was. It's a scene setter. It's to tease the audience on what was still to come. So I like, and of course there's a good old Sergeant Slaughter was, what was his role there then? Is he
I think he's the commissioner.
Commissioner. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
He always did a good job.
It's crazy to think too, how recent, because at this point, as a fan, I remember feeling like he was an elder statesman here in the company. And certainly I suppose he is. However, my man was in the main event of WrestleMania against Hulk Hogan in 1991. And we're seeing him in this capacity in 97. Of course, we're watching in 1998, but still, just 6 years later, after being in the main event with Hogan, now he's in a commissioner role. Age is a funny thing, man. It's like just 6 years removed, like working backwards. It'd be 2017, man.
Yeah, tell me about it. Age is a factor.
Yeah.
It can become very annoying, as for me in the last part of my career. It gets frustrating sometimes.
How so?
Well, I'm just in a different role. I got settled into playing one position, and now I've tried to transform into another position, which is fine, but it's just not the natural fit that I spent over, how many years developing. So that's the deal. I don't have a problem doing color, and I certainly don't have a problem working with Shivani and Excalibur. But for me personally, and maybe this is just strictly egocentric, and I try to just lay all this shit at the front door and don't bring it into the house, to have it's a timing thing. Anybody that's ever done these jobs can tell you it's a timing thing. It's like dancing. Who's going to lead the dance? Who's going to get us to point A to point B? Who's going to, are we going to go back and retrieve something that just happened earlier so we can not just forget about it? And so that's kind of what I'm thinking. I just feel like sometimes I'm in because of me, an awkward position. And I have a blast doing it. It's good. I like doing the color, but it's not what I did forever, which doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means I got to hone up and do a better job in my own vision than not. So it's tough. It's just, you're just changing positions, Connie. I don't know if it's as drastic as going from playing in the defensive line to playing in the offensive line, but something akin to that. You're still in the game. You're still doing your yob mang. And so as we watch this ass whooping.
And there is a big ass whooping going on here. We're seeing Owen Hart in the ring. As I understand it, Meltzer would say that something was edited here. They edited out the Owen Hart promo where he said his own family had left and deserted him, and that the fans had deserted him, and the nation is now his new family. That's why they did a second match later in the show, simply to insert the new ring entrant Sans interview into the beginning of the existing first match. Instead, Jim Ross explained in commentary that Hart and Rocky Maivia were the co-leaders of the nation, and they're no longer to be called NOD. And the entrance was changed where it opens with "We are the nation," but in the part where they say "Nation of Domination," it's a new musical score that was inserted. So we're, I guess, transitioning from calling it the Nation of Domination to just the Nation. What do you think of Owen Hart as a member of NOD here?
He always brought energy to them. A great performer. No matter what tag match you had him in, Owen, speaking of him, he always made that person or his adversaries look better. He was a great insurance policy in that respect. Other than his screw up with Steve in the Meadowlands and that pile driver where Steve got hurt, Owen Hart didn't have a blemish on his report card.
Right.
I just loved him. And you knew he'd be at work and you knew he'd be straight. And he makes, like I said, like that neck break. He did moves that he knew that his opponents could execute. So he was I thought an asset and a real blessing to that group.
You would think, I mean, I think a lot of people assumed at the end of 97, where we see Owen Hart attack Shawn Michaels, that they're going to be setting him up for something, looking for revenge from his brother Brett. And it's going to be Owen and Shawn. Of course, Vince had different ideas. It felt like he had an opportunity there, albeit a brief one, to be inserted into the world title picture for the first time, really, since he was feuding with his brother Brett back in 94. When it doesn't happen and he winds up becoming part of an ensemble cast here with the nation, it kind of signals to me as a fan, okay, the thought of him being a top guy, that's not in the cards for right now.
Yeah, I didn't see it quite that way. I felt like getting embedded into the nation would give Owen a chance to spin out as a single. In other words, it's no different than we're doing here with Rock. I mean, Rock was put in the nation in somewhat of a leadership role after Farouk moved on, and I thought that it was the same concept. So I've always had faith in Owen. I always thought Owen was, like I said, if Owen had not had his issue in the Meadowlands there with Stone Cold, maybe things would be a little bit different. I don't know. No one ever came to me and said, "Well, Owen's not safe." He's safer. He's probably the safest guy on the roster.
Right.
So Steve Blackman getting an opportunity to show some of his skills. Tough guy.
Do you think that was, I mean, really, you sort of filled in the blanks there, and I appreciate that, because once Austin has the championship, it doesn't feel as if he's going to be itching to work with Owen, but it would have been because of their history, because what we all saw that happened in the Meadowlands, it would have been a natural transition. But another guy that we know Austin didn't want to work with, Jeff Jarrett, he comes down, interferes, costs Blackman the match. Owen gets the win. There you see Jeff celebrating with Tennessee Lee on the ramp. It's a 1-2 punch, man. It's bad timing on Owen's part. Like, it's not his fault, but it kind of is what it is. Now that now that Austin has the title, if he doesn't want to work with you, it kind of is what it is.
I think Owen, he got a nice raise.
Yes.
After that whole fiasco in Montreal, he soon thereafter got a nice raise. And I was take a look at the Briscoe brothers. What a great team they were. My Oklahoma brethren.
Owen got a raise, you're saying?
Owen got a raise. Hopefully that would take some of the sting away. So I like how they're featuring Jerry.
Yeah, it's a nice little piece on Jerry Briscoe here, showing the Briscoe brothers body shop and him with the fam out on the boat. You saw a young Wes Briscoe on the couch right there. This is a nice little baby face piece on Mr. Briscoe.
Well, to make they wanted to make the referee thing and his loyalty to Vince, all those elements of this character. They did a nice job of getting that established. And there's the happy dad who wouldn't cheat anybody and
Yes.
loyal and Hall of Fame guy and all that stuff. So you might not have been a Hall of Famer at that point in time.
How about this Edge? Let's track this, Silva. This is an Edge vignette before he debuts.
To this place that made him do these things, that made him say these words, that made him not himself, that stole his soul, that handed him an empty cup, that bled.
Listen, it's a cool looking vignette, but I think even Edge would have to say it's hard to define really what the Edge character was here at first. What'd you think of that vignette and a very young Adam Copeland looking to cut his teeth here in WWE?
I thought it was a good vignette. It was compelling. It asked more questions seemingly than it provided answers, because I don't know that you can do a 1 minute or 2 minute vignette and adequately and accurately describe the Edge character, because for one reason, Conrad, that character was still being developed. He was new. We didn't know exactly, how the audience was going to take him, how his in-ring work is going to change or whatever. So we were still finding our way as we went along. But I always had high expectations for Adam. I said something on Twitter today. I saw Adam and Jay Resso Christian at a Toronto Maple Leafs game, and then I saw him again on a little selfie with our Brody Lee's son, Brody Jr.
-1.
-1. Okay, -1. I got all his shirts. I know. But they just had I don't know. I lost for words. They had a great kinship, and it worked out well. I mean, I liked what we were doing with these guys. We really were hitting well on all this creativity. The creative right now is pretty good. There's a reason for everything, and if you're booking a TV show, every segment's got to have a reason. Yeah. It's like every promo has to have the same 3 things: a beginning, a middle, and an end. Never changes. It's all about how you feel. There's Triple H doing his entrance audio. We pushed the envelope, man. I don't think anybody enjoyed pushing the envelope more than Sean Waltman. He thought he was getting away with something.
This segment here we're watching is the third quarter hour. This is the highest rated segment so far. We opened up with Vince and Foley and Austin. That did a 5.5. The match we just saw with the Nation did a 5.4. And now this is doing a 5.8. And we've got DX out here talking about a tag match later with the Disciples of Apocalypse. And eventually I think LOD is going to come out. DX here coming into their own. Eric Bischoff recently said he felt like Sean Waltman was really the piece that made DX click, pardon the pun, because he was really the first guy to defect from WCW / the NWO and come over to this side. There had been a lot of talent going the other direction.
Right.
To see someone get off the crazy train of being number one and in the driver's seat, and they're part of the NWO, and now they're here with DX. It looks as if, well, this whole invasion thing, now it's coming in the other direction. What do you make of that? Do you think Waltman's contributions were maybe underrated at the time?
Well, they weren't by me. I don't think The Office. It just took Sean a little while to get taken seriously. He'd made a lot of childish and amateur hour mistakes. He was young. He was the youngest of all this group at this time, I think. So, but he had to kind of prove himself again. And through Triple H's endorsement, he got that opportunity to get hired back. And because nobody's ever doubted Sean Waltman's ability in the ring. He's a hell of a hand. He's
Yeah.
ahead of his time in a lot of ways. As we take a little look at China there. So anyhow, very get taken aback by some of the signs. Can you believe Conrad? Would you have done this as a young Conrad? Made a sign and took it to a wrestling show.
I did do that as a young Conrad.
What sign was it? Do you remember?
I don't recall. I certainly did it at some ECW shows though. There you see LOD coming out on the stage, and as a reminder, this is not just Hawk and Animal. This is LOD 2000, where we tried a different look, different hairstyles, different gear, and a different manager. No longer with Paul Ellering, now the scantily clad Sonny.
Yeah.
Man, it's so sad to think that, man, both guys from the Legion of Doom no longer with us. And of course, Sonny's got some of her own issues and problems going on. When's the last time you heard from Sonny?
It's been a long time, Conrad. A long time. I saw something Missy Hyatt put on social media that Sonny had reached out to her, and Missy speculated it was for money to put her on fund to depress. So I don't know if that's even factual because I don't follow that stuff.
Right.
I found out, and I said this in the show, and it's just part of my mantra, I guess. Don't get over involved in things you can't affect.
There you go.
So I can't affect what Sonny's going to be incarcerated, it seems like, for a long time. And when you got death involved in your situation, it's hard to get past that deal. So I didn't like LOD 2000.
I don't think anybody did.
I like the original.
Yes.
I like the original. And so, well, I just didn't think it was going to get over. And I didn't think Sonny was the right person to manage him, quite frankly. And maybe that's what the Vince was looking for, a stark contrast to Paul Ellering, i.e. Sonny.
This show we're watching is a taped show, and normally that would not be a good thing when it comes to the competition with Nitro. But Nitro is preempted because of basketball.
That never hurts.
No, does not hurt. We should remind everybody that April 13th, we talked about it at the start of the show here. That's where the 83 weeks comes to an end. WWE gets the win. The next week on April 20th, Nitro does its second highest rating ever. Raw does its fourth highest rating ever. Then we go to Unforgiven. What a show that is. We just saw the fallout, if you will, of
Michael Cole and JR working together. I forgot about that.
Coming up short. Yeah. You guys are tag teaming here. Yeah. What I was going to mention though is the week before this, and because this is taped, meaning they did it one day before, that was the now infamous DX invasion of Nitro at the Scope. And so one day later, we're taping this show here, and you see in our main event, it's a no holds barred false count anywhere match with Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. And this is going to be, I guess, the blow off of Terry Funk here working with Mick Foley. I think he's going to do a little bit more with Too Cold Scorpio and then start to wind it down. They're taking a break. We're going to take a break here too, Jim. And we're going to remind everybody that we are not losing any sleep at all, thanks to Sleep Me. I'm sleeping better than ever because of Sleep Me. Seriously, this past weekend, one of the nights I slept 9 hours. It was unbelievable.
That's a record for you.
It is, man. It's unbelievable how much better I sleep thanks to Sleep Me. And the reality is this. There's some misconceptions out there where a lot of people think that you need a new mattress. This is not a new mattress. You're not buying a new mattress. It's a mattress topper that goes on top of your current mattress. And it uses water's amazing thermal powers to cool your bed as low as 55 degrees. That means no matter how hot you get, you can sleep at your ideal temperature. My wife works out really, really hard every morning, and she needs to recover. She's got a little gimmick on her wrist that tracks her recovery. It is off the charts much better when she has Sleep Me turned on. And she has her side of the bed automated. I say her side of the bed because you can do that. She likes to sleep a little warmer than I do. She wants to climb into a warm bed. I want to get in a cold bed. But she doesn't want to get all hot and sweaty during her sleep. So even though she climbs into a warm bed, It's scheduled. It's automated. She doesn't have to think about it. It cools her off through the night, and then it warms her up to wake her up. It's adjustable. It's unbelievable. And by the way, speaking of adjustable, this even works on adjustable beds. It works on every type of bed. Maybe you have a different temperature you like to sleep at with your partner than your partner does. No problem. As I said, I'm already doing that. And check this range out. You can go as high as 115 degrees. And Lord, that doesn't sound like fun to me, but maybe in the winter, maybe in certain times of the country. But 55 degrees, come on now, that's freezing. This is perfect for everybody. That's what's cool about this, Jim, is everybody's ideal temperature is a little different.
Absolutely. And now you got a choice.
Yes.
And now you have a choice. You can fix your hot sleeper or cold sleeper. All that can be handled very, very simply with Sleep Me. Great
Yes,
idea. It's one of those great ideas that you say, why the hell didn't I think of that?
Correct.
That's a great idea, man. How come it's just now coming around? They've been around for a while, and this product works. And
Sleep Me's got 2 water-based sleep systems, the Dock Pro and the Cube. I am so excited to try the Dock Pro. I have the older model. I love it. It's been fantastic. I've been using it for years. I even have one I travel with. Whether you're getting the Dock Pro or the Cube, either one, they'll get your mattress topper as cool as 55 degrees. But the Dock Pro, man, is the newest, the latest, the greatest, the most powerful system for the perfect sleep climate, no matter your body's heat load or the room temperature. If you need better athletic recovery or you're suffering from hot, uncomfortable sleep, you got to check out sleep.me/JR. That's sleep.me/JR. Plus, as a listener to this podcast, you can save up to 20% on a sleep system if you use promo code JR. This really is a game changer, and you need to check it out at sleep.me/JR and save up to 20% using code JR.
great for sleep, man. And again, I know it may be a mundane topic for some, but you don't discount how important sleep is in your life. And this solves that issue. I love the flexibility of it. Like Conrad's a great example. He and his bride who sleep differently, cold, hot, whatever. It's a great idea. And right now you can save 20% off using our code sleep.me/JR. That's what I'd suggest you do.
Let's do it. Sleep.me/JR. All right, so we're back here, and there's lots going on here we should at least touch on in the Observer. Tons of discussion about Nitro being on a tape delay and you guys taking advantage. What wasn't expected is that the old Raw record was broken by more than 1 full point with a 5.71 rating and an 8.2 share in 4.188 million homes. It's the highest television rating, not only in the history of Monday Night Television, but it also became the single most watched pro wrestling show in the history of cable television. And that's the show that we're watching right now, Jim.
Yeah.
A new high watermark. This is just crazy.
We had things that people wanted to see, Connie.
Yeah, you did.
It's really that simple. You found the hot spot, so to speak. And the way the show's written, I just thought it seems like it's been front loaded because of the talent on display. Now all we're doing here now is just recouping last week, bringing that story forward.
Let's talk a little bit about we see Dan Severn coming to the ring here. The week prior, the Norfolk Scope, the DX invasion. Let's just put this in perspective. DX have been real shit heels. I mean, they're pushing Mick Foley and Terry Funk off the ramp in a dumpster. That leads to a dumpster match at WrestleMania. The night after WrestleMania, they're going to handcuff these dudes and just destroy them with chairs. They're heels. But now we're putting them in a position just a week later, or a couple of weeks later, where they're going to be invading Nitro. That makes them a babyface, does it not?
Well, you'd think.
Yeah.
You'd think. but it's just a different time. I think people were more star conscious than they were heel babyface conscious, even though the elements are important. I think they're more star conscious. Uh, that's just my take on it, And everybody's got to get some TV time, including like two guys like this, like Severn, who's still trying to find his way, and the ever present and solid Savio Vega. Savio is very underrated. Very underrated.
I'm curious from your perspective, is this the first time? I mean, is Vince Russo the first guy that you recall advocating for? It's about stars. It's not about babyface and heel. Like, we hear that sort of talk attributed to him a lot in terms of his style of storytelling isn't, it's just a good guy versus a bad guy. There's shades of gray.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that, or is that something you challenge?
Well, I always believe that baby faces and heels need to be in place.
Right.
Always. And how you book them is dependent upon how those TV personas have evolved and developed, to be honest with you. So, Severn doing a nice job here. It looks like some of those shots that Savio wasn't excited about taking, some of those bumps, I'm not sure. Referee is Jack Doan. Remember him? He was around for a long time. I think I fired him.
Did you really?
I think so.
Over not losing weight? Is that that's the version I heard?
No, it's other extracurricular things.
Copy that.
Yeah, nice guy. Nice guy. God dang, you look back and you have to. It's unfortunate. No, there's the king.
We got to track him and Lawler. We got Lawler and Paul Bearer on the other side of the break. What a tease!
So we got a few minutes now.
Listen to this.
Could I get somebody to get me some water?
Good. You need some towel. These lights are hot.
Listen, come here, I want to ask you something.
Do what?
Come here, I want to ask you something. Before,
Where's my coat?
I don't know.
I thought I had a coat.
Tell me
Anyway.
about the deal before we go back. Tell me about what are you going to tell everybody about Kane? What's the deal?
I told everybody. You heard what I told them. I told the whole world he's my son. He is my son, Jerry. It's that simple.
Come on. So you're telling me
He's my son.
I can. I mean, you're telling me
You don't believe
No,
me.
you're telling me you nailed the Undertaker's mother.
Well, I nailed.
Yeah.
Well, no. Okay.
Tell me. Well, how did it
How
happen?
can I trust you?
I'll tell nobody.
I was 19 years old. I was an apprentice at the funeral home.
Right.
I went out one Tuesday night to the wrestling matches like I always did with my friends, had a few beers, coming to the funeral home, and there she was in this little Teddy outfit. I've never been, don't tell nobody, I've never been with a woman before at that point. I wasn't fat like I am now either. In fact, Jerry, I was kind of studly.
Oh, really? Right.
Yeah, I was. Well, anyway, I come through the door and she took me right there. Right there.
Where was on the embalming table or something?
No, on the kitchen floor.
Oh, no.
Yeah, at the kitchen floor of the funeral
Paul
home.
Bearer slips the salami to the Undertaker's mother on the kitchen
in
floor.
the kitchen
Come
of the
on.
apartment of the funeral
You swear
home.
to God.
I swear. It's the gospel truth. That's the way it happened. She took me, an innocent 19-year-old boy. I lost my virginity right there. It's true.
Paul Bearer buries his baloney in the Undertaker's mother's
And
kitchen. Come on.
she was a moaning and a groaning and a screaming, and I heard some little feet coming down the stairs. It's a good thing I got up because it was Little Taker coming down the stairs. I stopped him just in time. If he'd have took 2 more steps, he'd have seen his mama's feet. One of them was in New York, and the other one was in L.A.
Can you imagine if little Undertaker had come in and seen Paul Bearer and his mother bumping uglies? I've been told that the locker room conversation that I just had with Paul Bearer was inadvertently broadcast, and I certainly didn't mean for that conversation to be on the air. And I want to apologize to Paul Bearer, and I want to apologize to any of the viewers of the World Wrestling Federation that it may have offended. Sorry.
So they play that like it's real, Jim. That they sat the camera down and we were able to be privy to the conversation. But then having Lawler do an
Apology.
awkward on-camera apology, it makes it feel real.
I do. I agree.
What'd you think?
Oh, Lawler's a master. God
He
bless him.
is.
he's getting his procedure done this week. I'm anxious to see what the results are going to be to help his old brain and get over the stroke that he had. So I'm pulling for him. I know we all are. But,
Yes, sir.
He feels like that procedure is something he can handle and will help him. Boy, Sable she just jumped off the camera, didn't she? Off the screen.
Man, this training video that we're seeing here, was this shot in Titan Towers? Or is this a different film?
I need to look. It looks like it might have been. But I'm not 100% sure of that.
Who do you think was the bigger advocate for more Sable TV time, Russo or McMahon?
Vince.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've talked about before, when Vince and I met with Mark Merrill about coming to work, we and Rena came with him just on the trip. We had our nice little meeting and they left. I went back to my office, my phone rang, it was Vince, and he said, "Did you see what I saw?" And I'm trying to figure out now I don't know what he's seen right now, but I figured it out. He was talking about our meeting, and then he was talking about Sable. But she did have star power written all over. It's that, without sounding crass and impolite and not a gentleman. My mama raised me better than that. She just she was a find. I mean, the money she generated was tremendous, and her merch she sold and the ratings, the minute by minutes indicated there was a huge interest in her. So, I never believed that we'd get her up to a level where she could safely have matches. Not that I didn't believe in her athleticism. It's just a hard skill set to learn.
We should mention that this is an interesting time for society, not just professional wrestling. Jerry Springer's show is hotter than ever in this era. And it's sad that as we're recording this, just last week, we lost Jerry Springer. But he actually makes the Observer. Apparently, they're building this angle up to DNA testing of Kane and Bearer to prove that indeed Paul is the father, which means he would have indeed slept with the Undertaker's mother. There's some talk of Jerry Springer being on the show to reveal the results of the testing, but the belief is Springer will be held off to play a more prominent role in the SummerSlam pay-per-view. The producer of Springer and Basil DeVito of WWF have been working on forging a business relationship since the two shows are going after the same audience and perhaps to pool their power when the inevitable backlash against them comes. Do you remember, how far along, if anywhere, you guys got with Jerry Springer in a WWE association here?
It was all positive. They were looking for exposure too. They had a kid that worked for them named Rich Baker, who worked for Ed Cohen in the arena booking. And then when he got let go there in Stanford, Jerry Springer was recording. They recorded his show, I think, in Stanford or a suburb nearby. But I think it was Stanford where they take their show. And this kid became their talent booker. So he became their booker, so to speak.
Right.
And so that helped our cause. But Jerry Springer wanted the same thing that we wanted, exposure. And I think collectively that was accomplished. Not every week, obviously, but it was accomplished whereby you knew that if you tuned into Jerry Springer, you might see one of the WWF guys or a wrestling theme situation. But I thought it worked out okay.
We should mention what we just saw there with Steve Blackman and Jeff Jarrett was described in the Observer as a bit of a mess. Quote, both versions of the Miro Jeff Jarrett match that were taped in Richmond didn't air, so I guess that tells you about the quality of those matches. Jarrett and Miro actually wrestled a match, but Blackman missed his cue to run in twice. So Jarrett walked out on the match and was counted out. Jarrett returned to the ring once Blackman was told his cue, and again they began wrestling. And Blackman finally interfered, although not before missing his cue again. McMahon decided to cut out the whole mess rather than repair it. How common was this back in the day that there would be some sort of a timing miscue and we say, it's taped, just cut the whole damn thing?
Yeah, it didn't happen a lot. Didn't happen a lot, quite frankly. And it must have really been bad in Vince's eyes for it to go down as it did. So it happened occasionally, Conrad, but not often.
Let's talk about something else that's happening here. It's written in the Observer here that, quote, at that show in Richmond, Steve Williams made his WWF debut in a dark match, defeating Too Cold Scorpio. And the Torch would say, he's expected to sign a WWF contract within a few weeks and be groomed as a challenger to Steve Austin. In terms of work rate, Williams has slowed quite a bit since he was a world-class worker 4 years ago. After just one WWF match, he already has a reputation for forgetting planned spots in the ring. My goodness. Listen, we've all heard this story. We know how close he was to you.
Yeah.
You're, of course, tight with both Steve Williams. As a rule of thumb, if your real name is Steve Williams, JR will be your best buddy.
Yeah.
He's just meant to be. So I love that idea. Stone Cold versus Dr. Death. But I have to admit, until we started doing research for this episode, I didn't recall that one line from the Torch. After just one WWF match, he already has a reputation for forgetting planned spots in the ring. When I read that, I think to myself, somebody in the locker room is not happy about this guy coming in. Somebody's nervous about their spot. How else in the world would a guy develop a reputation after one dark match?
I know. Still, it's crazy, isn't it?
It
here's the other thing about that. After one match,
yes,
you got this scenario where the jury has already deliberated. They listened to the facts, and they've made this assumption that Doc could not remember his spots. I don't know how they did in Japan, where he had his most success. I got a feeling it was a little bit more freewheeling as DX returns to the scene of the crime. But he was, I've told people this before, and I'm not ashamed of it. I tried to do a favor to a friend. I wanted to see if we could get one run. We talked about this show. One of the reasons that Stone Cold became upset was the lack of viable opponents for him to challenge him for the title. That heel factory. Bruce and I both were deeply involved in this Dr. Death thing. But we're hopeful. That's all. We're hopeful,
right,
that we could get one run around the territory, so to speak, with Doc and Stone Cold. And it just, Doc got hurt, never materialized. He didn't catch a break there. And then we finally had to let go of him due to his injury. But I was trying to help him. I wasn't sure. I knew Bruce and I both would agree that Doc was on the cusp. One step this way and he can't do it. One step that way, and hey, he surprised us. He and Austin has some solid, firm, stiff type matches, snug. But we didn't get that far down the road, which I always felt badly about. And maybe I should have used more my judgment better and with Bruce, and we said, well, it's a good thought. We're trying to be good friends. We think it can help us, but the buts are always there.
Yes.
Always there. And that shit about, so whoever Doc worked with in that one match, whoever they're close to is the one obviously leaked it to Meltzer, I would think.
Well, Scorpio that he wrestled, but I don't think Scorpio was ever a source for the Torch. Like, there was an agent somewhere who told somebody something.
Somebody affiliated with that match.
Yes, or the agent probably, right?
Yeah.
Or the ref, maybe.
Could be. Any of those guys. The referee's a good suggestion too. Everybody wants to tell a story and feel more valuable and more viable.
This is an interesting deal here. We've got the New Age Outlaws doing a tag match here against LOD 2000 and DOA. So it's an 8-man tag, and the ref is going to order Sonny to leave ringside. And so now that he's ordered Sonny out, he's going to order China out. But X-Pac says, oh no, she's wrestling. I'm out. So we've got China here as a part of an 8-man tag match. And this is before everybody's really comfortable working with China. We know that eventually she's going to become the doggone Intercontinental Champion thanks to Double J and a check from the Gund Arena. Still, we get 2 minutes here into the match before she tags in. She's going to give Skull a Hurricane Rana. She'll tag back in a little later, and Animal's going to knock her off the top rope. She's going to low blow Hawk. She's going to hit DOA. She's going to punch Hawk, who's going to actually sell for her, believe it or not. This is a different time in the wrestling business. I mean, once upon a time, the idea that Hawk and Animal are going to sell for anybody is unfathomable. Now they're going to do it for a woman.
All right.
We're trying something new, and I'm curious from your perspective, did that require a lot of elbow grease with the office of saying, now boys, you got to understand? I mean, or is everybody with it because China's so unique and different?
Well, LOD 2000 didn't have any leverage.
That's true.
In the old days, they had pull, they had leverage. That changed, and hence their repackaging. So they didn't have a lot of leverage to negotiate more favorable, shall we say, creative. I've never been a fan, and this is going to piss off some people, but I'm always honest here. To a fault sometimes. I'm not a fan of intergender wrestling. I'm just not. And I understand if you're booked and you're looking for a payday, I understand why people do it. I get it. But I don't know for the general overall health of the wrestling business that women wrestling men is the thing to do.
And there they are right now calling those boo birds, those advocates for intergender. Hey, speaking of intergender, another lady who has been doing that pretty successfully on the other channel, Miss Jacqueline. She is going to be discussed as coming in here. We know ultimately she'll be paired with Mark Marrow. If she wasn't paired with Mark Marrow, who else do you think would have been a good fit for Miss Jackie?
As a manager?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I have to look at the roster, but she was I hired her to bring her in to work with some of our young divas. That was her calling. So
Right.
she was a lot more, in my eyes, Connie, she was a lot more valuable to us as a trained, skilled opponent for some of the up and coming young divas in the company. That was what I thought. So, but I'm not, maybe it's too old school. I called a lot of those matches, and I called them the best I could. I'm just not sold on the concept. To me, it's a little bit unrealistic, even though China had the great physique and strength and all that stuff. It didn't feel right to me. And I know and the experiment kind of fluttered. And when she beat Ivory for the women's title, she meaning China, obviously, I think it's probably one of the saddest days of her career. She didn't want to wrestle women.
Right.
I mean, she was adamant about it. It wasn't like well, maybe I could do. I think Vince and I both had to talk to her about that situation. It's just that was the role. You're casting a fictitious role. This is your casting, i.e., your booking, and but she thought that she should be wrestling men all the time.
Well, let's talk about some other news and notes. This is a headline that everybody's talking about in wrestling. It's from the Torch. Vince Russo has been formally promoted from WWF Magazine editor to television writer and assistant booker to Vince McMahon. He's been quietly building influence in the WWF ever since over a year ago. He was invited to a booking meeting and impressed McMahon when he spoke about some of the mistakes he thought the company was making. With the resurgence in TV ratings and his creative input a major factor, he's become one of McMahon's most influential assistants. Dennis Brent, former WCW magazine editor, has been hired to take over many of Russo's duties. So the title here, assistant booker.
I never heard that before.
Yeah. the idea that Russo is gaining more influence, I'm sure, is rubbing our old pal Jim Cornette the wrong way. How do you think it worked? How do you think Russo sort of coexisted with Pat Patterson and Bruce Pritchard?
Delicately.
Okay.
Patterson and Bruce kind of were grandfathered in. They both had done an amazing job over the years. They were Vince's assistant bookers, if that's what we're going to use that term.
Right.
But Vince was just, he had that, in some people's eyes, he could be a little caustic, confrontational. He had Vince McMahon as his backup, so he was protected. So anyway, I think maybe I don't know. I think it was I always think it's a good time. You need to always have fresh ideas, and not 10 of them, but you need to have fresh ideas to keep feeding the booking group. And in this case, how that worked was you had to come up with things that you could sell to Vince, and that's where it all started and stopped. So, and Russo had kind of captivated McMahon's curiosity. He had fresh ideas. He was a Howard Stern devotee, Jerry Springer-like devotee, and he used all those things to help transfer us from traditional Monday Night Wrestling into kind of the stuff that we're seeing right now on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, which I hope you are. So, it was a interesting time. Eggshells were abounding because everybody was protective, as they always are in pro wrestling, of their spot. And Russo was challenging, whether it was said or not said, Patterson and Bruce, their authority, their positions, etc. So, kind of crazy shit, like this match, which is going nowhere.
Yeah. So, as I understand it, Ed Ferrara is not yet with the company. He doesn't come on until the summer here of '98. Is that right?
I think that's right. Yeah, Russo brought Ed Ferrara in to after Russo had gotten there a few months, maybe not long, and then Ed became Russo's number 2. And hey, I never had Ed had product knowledge because Ed had worked a little bit in the Indies.
Right.
And no, I don't hate Ed Ferrara for his impersonation of me as Oklahoma. I could care less. It's like I said, it's fiction.
Yeah.
And he was cast in this role. Why would I get angry at a guy that was cast in a role to play, and it just so happened the character was making fun of me? So anyway.
Well, in fairness,
that's another topic.
He wrote it and cast himself.
Oh,
splitting hairs, but you've said many times here on the program, Jim, that you don't have any room for negativity in your carry on.
That's right. I believe that.
Yeah. And I think you've got that attitude here. We see Goldust coming to the ring right now. They just took a break. I think we should take one too. So Silva, if you'll throw us a pause here as we're watching, we need to take this time out to let everybody know that JR starts every day in a good mood, because he starts every day with Athletic Greens.
Yep.
It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day, and it's going to help you have better gut health, more energy, optimize your immune system. Or maybe you hate taking pills or vitamins. Maybe you want a supplement that actually tastes great. Well, Athletic Greens AG1 checks all the boxes. With just one delicious scoop, man, you're getting 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Everything you need to start your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients that supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your focus, your recovery, your aging, all of the things. Think of it as like your all-in-one nutritional insurance. I should mention it's lifestyle friendly too, man, whether you're eating keto or paleo or vegan or dairy or gluten-free, whatever it is, this checks all the boxes for you. You'll get less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything, and it still tastes good. It's going to help you support better sleep quality and recovery, more mental clarity and alertness. And they've got over 7,000 5-star reviews. That's just staggering to Jim and I every time. We just can't recommend it enough. We think it's time you reclaim your health. Arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit athleticgreens.com/JR. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/JR to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
You know, I was telling you earlier how much sports I watched over the weekend, and Athletic Greens was all over it. Their major national advertising campaign must be because their product is hot, and they're striking while the iron is hot. More and more people are discovering Athletic Greens and how simplistic it is to help your overall health. And so, really good product, folks. And it's inexpensive. It's easy to apply, so shall we say. So Athletic Greens is the hot thing right now. And hope you give it a shot. Give it a try and see if it doesn't make you feel better. I really believe that it will. And so check them out, Athletic Greens. And they got a great deal with us right now, athleticgreens.com/JR. And see what you can see how you like it. You'll find out you're going to like it a lot.
I love it. Let's do it. athleticgreens.com/JR. And now let's get back to the program here. We see Goldust walk into the ring here, and he's going to be taking on Kane. I think these fellows are going to go to a no contest because what do you know? The Undertaker not too happy with Kane and Paul Bearer. These are 3 over the top outlandish characters. You know, the Undertaker is an undead zombie or whatever he is with magical powers who can summon lightning. And his brother Kane, he can summon fire the same way. These over the top, fantastic creatures. And maybe the craziest character of all, here he is, Goldust. And this is the year where we start to try some really interesting stuff with Goldust. We're going to start calling him the artist formerly known as Goldust. He's going to be in all kinds of crazy attire, and we're pushing the envelope. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, because you were here when the Goldust character first debuted in 95 and got hot through 96.
Yeah.
Did you think it ever went too far? This Goldust pushing the envelope business?
You know, not really, Conrad. It was set to be bizarre. I think we even use that word bizarre a lot.
Yes.
The basic definition of bizarre is what it is. So I never thought it went too far. Look, if you're going to start the journey, then finish it.
Right.
Don't hold nothing back that you think might help get the character over. And Dustin was so good at pulling off that role that, his performances led to him getting more television time. But it was a very controversial character. At the beginning, I thought he might be a gay character. Wasn't sure. Because, again, the whole storyboard wasn't released. In other words, we didn't know how far the creative and Vince was going to go with Goldust character. Had no idea. But he got TV time because he produced. And I loved his interpretation of this crazy ass character.
It is a crazy ass character. We see Goldust and Kane here hooking it up. Of course, in theory, we talked about earlier, shades of gray. Both of these guys are heels. Right. Speaking of heels, I'm sure you guys were all heels when it came to the opinion of the folks inside of the Turner organization. It's written here in the torch that the day after the DX invasion, which is the day this was taped here in Richmond, quote, the next day, one top executive from the WWF called another from WCW and basically tried to apologize over the incident, claiming it wasn't done to make WCW look bad. Not sure if he also tried to tell him the moon is made of green cheese. So as I understand it, this is Zane Bresloff who's going to be receiving the call. Would that have been a call you made?
No, no, probably somebody in legal or somebody, but it wasn't me. It
Okay.
wasn't me. And I probably would have talked to somebody else in West Zane's heart, or rest in peace. He booked arenas.
Yes.
So why would I talk to the arena booking guy about creative? It makes a
Well,
good dirt story. It's good for the torch or good for the observer, but
right.
it's illogical, quite frankly. So no, I didn't make the call. I didn't even know that call was made, to be honest with you. That's how minuscule it was on the radar.
Well, what is on our radar is this is the last time we're going to see Goldust during this era. After this, he starts really pushing some of the different characters that we would see Dustin try over the years. But in the traditional Goldust garb and get up and presentation, this is kind of it. I'm curious where you saw the Kane and Undertaker story going. Just to recap, Kane makes his debut the prior October at the very first Hell in a Cell match with Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker in Your House Bad Blood, just one day after we lost Brian Pillman. And since then, man, they've told this crazy, chaotic story. They wind up burning up the Undertaker at the Royal Rumble, setting his casket ablaze. They're in a collision course for WrestleMania. They finally face each other at WrestleMania. Just 30 days later at Unforgiven, less than that, they have a rematch. This time it's an Inferno match, the first ever Inferno match in WWE history. Once we've set a dude on fire and we've faced each other at WrestleMania and we've been in an Inferno match, they're still going at it. Nobody could have, I don't think, imagined that this story would go on 20 some odd years. But in this era, you would often see guys and storylines built for The Undertaker that lasted weeks, maybe months, but they didn't persist like this. But think back to like the fake Undertaker. So when it was Brian Lee, we built towards SummerSlam and then we moved on. On the other side of WrestleMania, we do an Inferno match at the next pay-per-view, and we're still doing it. Like it's still, did the Kane character feel sticky to you? I mean, because at this point, he's tried Isaac Yankem DDS. He's tried the fake Diesel. It would have been easy to say, all right, he'll get 3 or 6 months out of this, maybe a year. Decades he got out of it. I wouldn't have called that when we first saw the character. How about you?
I hired the guy.
Yeah.
I recruited the guy. I saw him as a Unabomber in OVW with Cornette.
Smoky Mountain, maybe.
Smoky Mountain, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. With Cornette and his crew. So I always believed that there was big money in Kane. Goddamn, Conrad. You don't get too many athletic 6'10" guys that weigh 300 pounds with a college degree that are high character guys. You just don't.
Right.
So, yeah, he was going to get every opportunity to get over. And his big break came because Mark Calloway embraced the guy. And Mark was willing to work with Kane, Glenn Jacobs, the mayor of the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
Yep.
And what a good guy he is. And he was a good guy as Kane. He was a good guy everywhere. You never have to worry about him being at work or doing what he needed to do or contributing to the creative. So I always had confidence in Glenn, but we finally found the right fit. And that was Kane, not Dr. Yankem or any other shit. Kane. And it worked out great. I thought it worked out great. And like you said, he got many years out of it, man. When that's not normal. That's how I see it. I loved him. And I still do. He's a hell of a good guy. He's a credit to the wrestling business. If wrestling had a union, and they never will, by the way, because nobody trusts each other enough to let somebody else handle their money. But he'll be a great guy in a role of administration to help represent the talent because he's a smart guy, honest guy, and so anyway, it's good stuff. I'm a big Glenn Jacobs aficionado, as you could tell.
We just saw an amazing, we're still finishing an amazing Cactus Jack Terry Funk recap video, if you will, showing home video footage from their IWA King of the Deathmatch tournament and going to private conversations in the ring before the doors were open. It's really crazy to see what you guys were willing to try. I mean, just the idea that you're showing ECW footage on Monday Night Raw would have been crazy. But to then show basically independent hardcore promotions from Japan show their footage on the show, also crazy. And now we're recapping, of course, the success that Cactus Jack has had here in the WWF. And boy, what a great story you have about Mick Foley signing, where finally McMahon acquiesces and says, I'm going to let you hire him just so you know what it feels like to have your heart broken. Boy, he proved them all wrong here, did he not?
He sure did. Yeah. I can't say as I'm surprised as two artisans are making fun with the steel chair. I love those two guys. Charisma. They're not going to sell 8x10s because of their 6-pack abs and stuff.
No.
Well, what great talents! What great workers they are.
It really is amazing what Terry Funk has been able to do here.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's main eventing a Monday Night Raw here. That's crazy. I mean, at this age, this is not supposed. Let's not forget, it's at this point, it's been over a year since he won the ECW World Title, and back then they were calling him middle-aged and crazy. And he's pushing the limits of what you should do and can do. And you're even going to see some crazy stuff happen in this main event that we're getting ready to watch. I mean, a moonsault, a pile driver, through a table, lots of craziness. Speaking of craziness, there's going to be a crazy character debut here in just a moment. And I want to make sure we track this because as I understand it, we're going to get a Val Venis vignette. So we saw Adam Copeland for the first time earlier on this program. It was the first Edge vignette, the first time we've seen him. The last time we'll see Goldust as he is here. The dark match for this show was, as we said earlier, Dr. Death, Steve Williams. And now we're going to see a Val Venis vignette with also, I guess, at least for now, the death of the Dude Love character. Pretty eventful show, and still to come, the main event, Cactus Jack and Terry Funk, a main event anywhere in the world, and has been at this point.
Yeah.
But here's this vignette we were talking about from Val.
Hello, ladies. Welcome to the set of my latest video entitled Val Venis, Soldier of Love. Let me introduce you to my co-star. I'm sure you will all know the luscious Jenna Jameson. And ladies, when Val Venis finally crosses enemy lines and enters into the World Wrestling Federation, one look at my silencer and you'll all be left speechless.
Come on, Val. I want to go back down in the hole.
And I'm kind of speechless myself.
Val Venis is coming, the vignette tells us.
God.
So, listen, what do you think of the Val Venis? I mean, listen, I think we all appreciate that we're going in a more risque direction. We saw scantily clad workout video from Sable earlier. We know later this year, just a couple of months after this, she's going to have a bikini contest with some handprints on her top that really put it over the edge, and I'm sure sold a lot of posters and what have you. And we're going to eventually have a pimp character in The Godfather. Not quite there yet, but now we're certainly insinuating, since we're saying this guy is on the set, that he is a porn star. What do you think of the idea to go full tilt into this adult and pushing the envelope and a porn star wrestler gimmick?
I wasn't crazy about it, Conrad.
Yeah.
I thought it was a stretch, to be honest with you, because Sean Morley, Val Venis, was a hell of a worker.
Yes.
Really a good talent. And I think that when we hung that porn star thing on him, it really backed him into a corner. Now, this is who you are. This is what you are. And it seemingly just didn't have the, the sizzle. It was unbelievable sizzle type thing. Not good. So, I don't know. The sucking air through your teeth and that the phony laughter. Shit, that turns you off. It's not real.
Right.
You're working me
Yes.
overtly. So, I hired Sean. I hired him because he's a wrestler. He's a good wrestler. And he was looking for a break. He'd been wrestling for a long time. Stone Cold doing color with Lawler and I.
Yeah, I like that Lawler's out there with you. Of course, hour one, I guess, was Michael Cole. Hour two is Jerry Lawler. And, I agree with you. I didn't really love, don't get me wrong, as a kid at the time, I thought it was cool if there was a porn star character because, I'm 17 and I think that's awesome. However, the ceiling has to be really low with this character. And it's like, what could this guy do without that character? Because it's not like you're going to have a porn star world champion, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, you're not. But hey, look, they shot the video. I'm sure they made that. Jenna Jameson made a nice payday.
Oh yeah.
She was the king of the mountain, or the queen of the mountain, I guess you'd say, in that porn world. At least one of the top porn stars in the business. So they didn't spare any money or any effort to get the right person in that booking and that casting. So it's
and as I understand it, Bruce Pritchard helped produce those. That was shot in his backyard, what we just saw.
I'm sure that he did. And not because of the geography either.
No. And I think his lovely wife Stephanie found out after the fact. Wait, that lady who was in our bathtub earlier, she's an actress. What are some of the movies she's been in?
Yeah.
Sort of type of deal.
Yeah.
So how about this? Pat Patterson being announced as the special guest referee here. He's coming down in his stripes. Of course, we saw that fabulous presentation with Jerry Briscoe earlier, where he was talking about Mr. McMahon being the greatest human being that he's ever known, blah, blah, blah. And now we've got Mick Foley and Terry Funk. And man, they're going to get plenty of time here in the main event.
Now you mean Mr. McMahon.
That's right. My apologies.
McMahon. Jerry. I love old Jerry. God almighty. What a good human being. What a great talent. What an asset to have on your team. He helped recruit some of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling.
There's a moment here. Of course, Austin's out with the world title, doing color, taking a look at Terry Funk and Cactus Jack right in front of him. Cactus is wearing tennis shoes, gray sweatpants, a white t-shirt, and a cutoff flannel. But of course, he's wrapped his hands up in tape and he's ready to roll. Austin's gonna, as the Torch would say, stand on the desk and drink a can of beer in one swallow. So he's trying to play the hits, but he's on headset here. And at some point, look at there. There's our first chair shot.
Yeah.
Dents the chair on Foley's head.
Yeah. We don't do that no more.
Nope. There's three.
Smart. Yeah. Look at that chair. That chair's destroyed. And so are some brain cells, I might surmise.
That's what a 53-year-old man can do when he gets pissed off. Terry Funk ain't no. Well, remember, piece of chopped liver. What? McMahon said that For Mick Foley to prove himself to be worthy of the #1 contender, he's got to beat Terry Funk.
Let me tell you something. Vince McMahon can say to him all he wants to, and it looks like it has motivated Mick Foley. But the fact of the matter is, he really doesn't give a rat's ass who knocked Stone Cold Steve Austin off the top of the world. It really doesn't matter who it is, and Jack needs to wake up and realize that.
Well, he's doing what McMahon said. McMahon said that Jack had to rip Funk limb from
Funk's expressions, his facials, priceless.
There's a point in the match here, Jim, where Lawler's mic starts to have some technical problems.
Yeah.
And Austin punches him. I assume that's all just improv. But here you are. Now it's taped, so certainly you could, in theory, clean it up, clear it up. You and Lawler know each other like the back of your hand. But when you've got a guest talent, so it's not a Kevin Kelly, it's not a Michael Cole, it's one of the quote-unquote boys. They're not going to be in the rhythm of doing this. They don't have a cadence with you guys. They maybe don't understand the, ABC of a 3-man booth or what have you. And you guys have to sort of pick up the slack and work around them. Is that a challenge, or is it easier with some talent than others? What can you tell us about that?
It's easier with some talent than others, but you have to acquiesce and prioritize your wrestler guest. Take care of him or her. So that's simple as that. You just reassess your priorities, and because you sure as hell there's shit going on all over the place in this match. Lawler doesn't have a headset now.
Yes,
that's funny.
Mine's not working. What the hell's going on here? These guys are killing each other. If they're going to kill each other, I got to be sitting here.
See, that's your mic's messed up. I don't know what the heck's wrong with it. It's messed up.
Man, and straighten this out because it's starting to piss me off. We got we're ready to kill somebody.
I like
I
this.
can't even describe it to you.
Steve, I'm sorry, but they don't think they heard what you said.
To do with it.
So they're sabotaging Stone Cold's appearance here. Of course, he blames McMahon, but punching Lawler for it.
I swear to God I didn't. I swear to God I didn't have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, don't hit me with those goddamn working punches you're so famous for, Mr. Heavy Hands. I remember after you beat the shit out of me in Oklahoma City after WrestleMania 17. I said, are you pissed at me for some reason? What do you mean? You beat the shit out of me out there. You got to make it look good, kids. TV. I said, it's taped. Fine. SmackDown. And in the meantime, if your goal was to lay it in, you accomplished your goal.
Yeah.
Brother, you laid it in.
5.51 rating, 5.47 first hour, 5.54 second hour, 8.3 share. Second highest rating in the history of Monday Night Raw. As a reminder, Vince meets with Brett September 22nd. So just like 7-8 months prior, and says, hey, I can't afford you. And now here we are, thanks to Mike Tyson, thanks to Mr. McMahon, thanks to Stone Cold. The train has left the station. You guys are making money hand over fist, and the ratings just continue to climb. How much of that in hindsight is because of Mr. McMahon as a heel? How much of that do you attribute to just being able to push the envelope a little more with the more risque content? Said differently, just the rise of Russo, or is it just a perfect storm?
More perfect storm than anything else. Russo was smart in that he had an idea and a concept that was different, that had been presented on television and pro wrestling, and he had Vince's ear. Vince is results oriented, so that was, and so we were getting results. So you're going to go with the guy with the hot hand. If you got one guy on the booking committee that's coming up with all these cool ideas and it's working, and a minute by minutes and a quarter hours and so forth are positive, you're winning. And I think that's kind of where we were there, because it was such a different presentation. The same basic talents, but a different presentation. And it's like saying, I'm going to eat chicken tonight. what do you want? What kind of chicken we're going to have? Well, I'd rather have mine fried.
Right.
Well, type deal. Chicken's chicken. Well, it's not really. It depends on how it's prepared. And that's what this was. This is a fine dish prepared very uniquely and very well. Oh, Terry's willing to try anything. God bless him. All for the business. And you wonder why. Well, he got more money for doing these bumps. No, he didn't.
Let's track it here. We got Terry Funk climbing up in front of the fans here. He's still climbing. Cactus Jack is down below. A 53-year-old moonsault.
Yeah.
From where New Jack used to jump and put people through a table. Here goes Terry Funk.
It was kind of a modified moonsault into a crossbody or something, but bottom line is he went to a high place. They're working in concrete and steel. He's 53 years old.
Yes.
He deserves an attaboy. So does Mick, because Mick had to catch him. Look at Terry selling. What a lost art. Boy, with these young talents today, no matter what company they're with or what indie they work for, understood better how important the art of selling is, the business would be so much better. Because you add that element of drama back into your presentation. And without drama, pro wrestling's lacking.
Here comes a pile driver through a table.
Wow.
For Terry Funk.
That's like Terry Funk did to Flair in Nashville.
Yeah.
Way back in the day. That's in 89.
It's fun to see this. I would have loved to have seen more of Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. I know that Foley actually pitched a double cross ranch death match, like explosions and all the silliness at WrestleMania. And it looked like it was going to happen, and then it didn't. We went with the dumpster match instead. We did get a question from, let me see if I can find it here. Francis Reyes says, with Mick Foley versus Terry Funk, did you enjoy it as a main event on Raw, or would you have liked to have seen it saved for a pay-per-view instead?
No, I was fine with it. They actually had more eyeballs on their match,
yes,
having it on Raw than they ever would on pay-per-view.
No doubt.
Not even close. So if you're looking for eyeballs and exposure, as the trash cans and so forth go a flying, remember it's Falls Count anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where I was, but nonetheless, where was I, Conrad?
You were talking about Bryant's question. Mick and Terry having a hardcore match was something out of the ordinary.
I liked it. Here's the thing about it. Doing what they're doing right now, how do you follow it?
Right.
How do you adequately follow it? And as our camera is trying to follow these combatants,
it feels real. And that's what's cool about this to me is it doesn't feel overly produced. There's not great lighting everywhere they go. We're losing them in the crowd and another camera's got to pick them up. Like, it feels spontaneous. And I think that's what wrestling sometimes misses, especially WWE. I feel oftentimes a lot of things happen in AEW and it comes off a little more gritty, a little more realistic, just from their production standpoint. Whereas, and Eric Bischoff first made this analogy a few years ago, and I thought he nailed it as we see Foley nail a DDT on Terry Funk on the ramp here. Pat Patterson slides in to make the count, but Funker's not out. Bischoff says that WWE sometimes, to him, feels maybe overproduced. Maybe it feels a little more choreographed in the way of production, not in-ring action. But the production perhaps feels a little bit more like Disney on ice than a fight. Would you agree with that? That at times wrestling can get too overproduced?
No, at times I think Eric's got a good point. It's too clean. It's too clean sometimes. I think grit sells tickets, and I think the unpredictability of a wrestling match sells tickets and pay-per-views and so forth. But it's I like I'd like this close because how do you like I said what do you book in your show that follows it?
Right.
Without letting it, well, the people say, oh well, best part of the show's over. Nobody's going to replicate what those guys just did with the tables and the chairs and outside. They have been in the ring for how long has Vince been in the ring? I know this it's legal in this match, but nonetheless, it's a unique match that's hard to follow because of the staging and the gimmicks and that type thing. So, no, I'm fine with that deal. I don't think we could have followed it. I really believe that. Then you had Austin out there at ringside, at that element of drama. You got the great Pat Patterson there refereeing, adds a little sizzle to the steak. And I loved it. And obviously, Connie, the fans did too because the ratings were phenomenal.
Yeah, they were. Let's track it here, Silva.
You stupid son of a... And I got to apologize for my language. Usually it's a lot worse than this, but I'm trying to mind my manners.
There's Stone Cold right there.
God. This is killing me. But
So we saw a little interaction there with Austin and
I've
Foley.
never seen a more physical matchup in the entire history of Raw in my life. We've got chairs.
And you got Terry Funk still out there fighting for his life.
It is absolute carnage. Oh. And there's a double arm DDT. That may be enough. One, two, and Funk kicks out. That old son of a gun kicked out again.
We can cut it again. I thought that was the finish there. But what's going to be interesting is there's a little post-match piece of business that keeps us going. I want to ask you about this. The Observer was speculating in this era, so we'll call it the first week of May.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, I find it hard to believe the main event for SummerSlam will be anything other than Austin versus McMahon. We know instead it winds up being SummerSlam Highway to Hell, The Undertaker versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, babyface versus babyface.
Wow.
And we don't get the Austin McMahon SummerSlam. Do you think in hindsight that would have done bigger or better business? I know folks were disappointed with the number for Undertaker Austin.
Yeah.
Or was that never going to be a worthy pay-per-view in 1998, McMahon versus Austin?
I think it would have been worthy as hell, and I think it would have done very good business because of the curiosity factor. How these guys going to pull this off, and McMahon at his age, his skill set, how's he going to fare with Austin, who's got one gear, and you can bet your ass that Austin's not going to risk his persona or anything else with a shitty performance. So somehow or another, they got to. And I'm sure Patterson, who's in the ring right now refereeing, had a lot to do with it, organizing the finish. So, but this added a lot to the show. Steve was just on fire. Remember, the stiff was you got to debilitate Funk. Vince wants Funk hurt so Mick can earn his spot with Austin.
And Mick's already won the match here, but he continued to beat on Funk. So Austin climbs in, throws a beer into Mankind's face or Cactus Jack's face.
Right.
Cactus has beer in his eyes, so he just throws up the mandible claw, inadvertently puts it on Pat Patterson, eventually realizes what's happened.
Yeah.
And now we've got a face off here. And from behind, here he comes. Let's track it.
Wait a minute. Patterson. Oh, there's a stunner. Patterson was going to hit Austin.
Patterson's stunner only exceeds mine as being one of the worst ever.
Will Mick Foley now be named the #1 contender again for the WWF title?
You ask the questions going off the air that you want people to retain and regurgitate in a variety of ways. These last 30 seconds or a minute of these live shows like this, remember how we started with Mick in the ring, on the stage.
And look, now the music hits. It's the Dude Love music, and instantly Foley looks up, sees Vince McMahon with two scantily clad bikini ladies in the Dude Love gear. The camera tilts, and they all embrace and hug and dance.
Austin's disgusted. He knows that Dude, Mick, or Jack, as Austin like to call Mick, Jack, a lot of guys did. Baker does too. They, well, look at that. That'd make a man lose his train of thoughts, Conrad.
So they had an Unforgiven match. Now they've got an Over the Edge match, which I think both of these guys think a lot of. But seeing McMahon doing some of the dude love dancing with Mick Foley, it's funny stuff. It just works. I don't know why it does. It just does.
Entertaining.
Yes.
Entertaining, no doubt. Well, Vince really believes he can dance. I mean, seriously, it's a shoot. Ask Bruce sometime on his show. Vince truly believes he's one of the great dancers of all time.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Well, man, what a show that was. We got a few questions here we want to hit. But
go.
before we do, I want to remind everybody that in my real life, man, I love helping people save money. And there's never been a better place to save money than right now at savewithconrad.com. We're routinely helping our podcast listeners get a lower monthly payment, get rid of all their credit card debt, and even skip their next 2 house payments. That's right. If you haven't already, you don't have to make your May or your June payment. You're done until July. And it's not a matter of if we can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket at savewithconrad.com. Let's read some of our 5-star reviews. Julian over in Huntsville gave us 5 stars. Megan D in West Lafayette, Indiana says, my husband handled everything. I was just there to sign. 5 stars. Carlos got a little shout out. He got 5 stars. Carlos went above and beyond the requirements of his job to ensure that all of my questions were answered, advised me on making an offer on the house, and ensure everything was taken care of before closing. Couldn't be happier. Will definitely recommend him to friends and family. Another 5-star for George BP. Clay, he says, easy to work with, very easy to work with and reply and answer any and all questions that I had. 1 5-star review after another. Don't just take our words for it. Go check it out for yourself. ConradReviews.com. You'll also see we have an A+ rating with the BBB. But the reality is, if you're in an apartment and you're looking to buy a house, the first call should not be to a realtor. It should be to us. We're going to ask you things like, what do you want your new payment to be? Do you want to put any money down? Because that's real. You don't have to put any money down. There are no money down options. And you can get a house payment cheaper than what you're paying your current rent. Jim, I don't know that you've been keeping up with this, but there's lots of new construction in my area. A lot of 1-bedroom apartments here in Huntsville now start at $1,800 a month.
Damn.
That's crazy. You can own
a It's a little pricey, Connie.
That's it. And it's Alabama. I can't imagine what it's like in some other areas. If the rent is becoming not so affordable, savewithconrad.com is where you need to be. We can show you how to buy a house with no money down for less than your current rent. That's savewithconrad.com. Bobby wants to know, hey, JR, I really enjoy your podcast every week. Boomer Sooner, did you have a creative plan for Edge when you hired him?
No, did not. We just get him hired, get him signed, get him some money. He was broke. And I didn't help the cause a lot there because he wasn't making a lot of money for us in his first contract. But with creative, we just weren't there yet. We needed to evaluate, see him in action, and see how he's going to adapt into the WWE universe.
Fun question here from Ben Ledbetter. Was the back and forth between you and King about Brian Christopher being Jerry's son a rib on the King, or was that actually suggested by creative?
It was me kind of playing a lame ass rib on Jerry, just having some fun. He didn't have a problem with it whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's good for Brian because it got him some exposure and a very unique presentation. So no, he didn't have a problem with it, and the creator did not suggest it.
2 Count Kyle says, Jim, how did Owen like working as a heel? Did he have a preference over the other 2?
You know, I'm going to guess the answer to this is that he had no problem with it whatsoever. As a matter of fact, a lot of guys that have been perennial baby faces relish the opportunity when the time comes that they become a villain. I think Owen was in that category. He was having fun doing it, and and that's important. At a veteran like him, has been around as long as he has or had, he needed to it was time for a change. So I think he relished that opportunity.
Well, I relish the opportunity to talk to you next week because we're going to be covering your time in Mid-South Wrestling, how you got started in the company, the early days, what your role was. We'll talk about Bill Watts. We'll talk about Ernie Ladd. We're talking about a lot of Mid-South next week here on the program. Good. And love to give you a chance to ask a question. It's easy to do that. Our show handles are at JR Grilling on Twitter and Instagram, and Grilling JR over on Facebook. You can catch Jim Ross at Jim Ross BBQ on Facebook, Jim Ross BBQ on Instagram, and JR's BBQ on Twitter. We would love to have your follow and your like and your subscribe over on our YouTube. It's Grilling JR on YouTube.com. Lots of fun new merch and swag over at GrillingJRTees.com. Something for everybody: tumblers, cutting boards, t-shirts, hoodies, hats. Whatever you're looking for, we've got it over at GrillingJRTees.com. Speaking of things we got, we talked about it at the very opening of the show. You've heard the name David Sahadi many times before, but you've probably never heard his story. He very rarely does interviews. We got to spend a ton of time with him breaking down how he came into the company and some of his most iconic things that he shot. Great video packages, the Raw opening, the one that made Vince McMahon cry, the Super Bowl commercial, and the shoot, his last shoot.
That's the one, Conrad, excuse me, with Freddie Blassie kind of as the centerpiece.
Yes, correct.
And Freddie was a huge sentimental favorite of Vince and Vince's dad. But you're talking about one of the greatest heels of all time. And I love Freddie. Freddie would come to our parties. Vince would have a party or something, and Freddie and his wife, who was Japanese, were always there, and he was always the head of the party. Freddie always was Freddie. God bless him. So I feel really blessed that I could learn from talents like Freddie Blassie in my career. It helped me immensely.
Check it out, adfreeshows.com. We've got that conversation with David Sahadi and so much more. It's adfreeshows.com. By the way, if you're a business, targets men that are 25 to 54 years old, no better place to advertise than right here on Grilling JR. You've heard us do some of the same ads for the same companies year after year. Why is that? Well, because it really works. And with a super targeted audience, there's very little waste. Go right now to advertisewithjr.com. That's advertisewithjr.com. And we should mention that it's grilling season, Jim.
Yes, sir.
I made some of the biggest chicken breasts you've ever seen last night.
You mean the Dolly Partons?
Buddy, they were the Dolly Partons. and we got the broccoli on there too. Put it all on the grill. Oh. And here's what we had in common, what supper had in common. Everything, including the corn and the broccoli, all made on the grill with the chicken. Wow. And all of it with that famous JR's all-purpose seasoning. It's hard to beat, man. It works every time.
It works on everything. It's amazing, and people just need to discover it. And like you said, guys like you that swear by it know exactly what I'm talking about. We're always expanding our line. I've made a big order for a bunch of action figures, AEW action figures that we're going to be signing and selling on the website sooner than later. So check that out. But we're always open. We're always shipping. We ship something out every day. At least that's our goal. JRsBBQ.com. Costs nothing to look.
Really excited for you guys to check out JRsBBQ.com. And I'm excited that you're getting out on the road again. As I understand it, later this month, you're going to be hanging out in Baltimore. And then on Sunday, June 4th, you're doing a virtual signing with the cats at WrestleFest, K&S WrestleFest.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
August 4th, man, Charlotte, your old stomping grounds for Jim Crockett Promotions. And, man, a whole host of legends are going to be there. Our old pal Jerry Briscoe, J.J. Dillon, Tully Blanchard, Abdullah the Butcher, Kevin Nash, Kurt Angle. It's all happening at the Gathering in Charlotte. TMarkPromotions.com is where you can find out about that one. If you want something signed or autographed and you want to do it virtually, go to Facebook.com/KSW WrestleFest. And of course, if you're wanting to check out Jim in Baltimore, it's BaltimoreCelebFest.com. Man, you're back on the road.
Yeah,
I love to see this.
I look forward to it. It's just in my blood, Conrad. I enjoy so much traveling to wrestling events like these, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I enjoy meeting people. I just find it more so now than I ever have. So rewarding that, you know, like I've said this before, it's cool when you meet parents, a dad and his dad, they watched wrestling together and they watched some of my work. And then their kid now has been watching some of my work. So it's 3 generations. And I just think that's cool as hell. And because the dad's always got a story, a JR-ism. I've grown to find out, Conrad, in these appearances, that there's a lot of JR-isms that are repeated. I don't know how good an idea that is, but nonetheless, I appreciate it. So we're going to be making some more appearances. Conrad, if somebody's listening to the show and they were interested in an appearance for their business or so forth, how do they do that to leave the information here?
That's a great question, Jim. Just go to advertisewithjr.com, fill that form out, let us know that you're looking for a personal appearance from Jim, and we will make sure it gets to the appropriate hands, which of course is the very talented Mr. Bloom.
Yes, sir. Barry Bloom, the agent of the stars.
Man, he's been in the news a little bit lately, but we don't talk about current stuff. But we do look forward to seeing you this Friday night for Rampage. And don't forget, before you tune into Rampage, go pick up your all-in tickets. I want to encourage everybody, if you're on the fence about whether or not you want to be a part of that show, it's one you don't want to miss. I mean, this is going to be for that area what SummerSlam 92 was. But for this company, this could be like their WrestleMania 3, Jim. Don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I have great expectations. I hope these kids you're seeing, if you're watching on YouTube, some of these guys and gals that are on this graphic, I hope they understand what opportunity awaits, what's there for us to achieve and to earn as a team. And it's an amazing accomplishment. I was reluctant to go to work for a startup. I had no regrets. And I would never have, you could have won a lot of money from me by saying, well, in 3 years and change, you guys will be doing Wembley. I looked at you like you're insane.
Right.
But sure enough, it's going to happen. And there's going to be a lot of people there. So I can't wait to travel over myself and be around all those great fans. The bar talk at these events with the fans from England and surrounding area, it's not going to just be from England, but a lot of places. It's pretty phenomenal, Connie. They have so much fun. They're so glad you're there. You're welcome. It's just terrific. It makes you feel blessed to be in the pro wrestling business. And those of us that are should feel that way every day.
Well said, Mr. Ross. So thankful we got to spend time watching Monday Night Raw from 1998. What a big show it was. One of the highest rated shows in history at that point. And it's a great story. It started with a great story. It finished with a great story.
Yep.
And we'll be back next week talking about how your story started with Mid-South. This is going to be a lot of fun. Without further ado, go check out jrsbbq.com, and maybe you need a grill. Maybe you're tired of living in an apartment. Well, I can help you with that. SaveWithConrad.com. We'll get you in a house. And don't forget, pick up your tickets on Friday and tune in this Friday night to see the voice of wrestling,
Rampage. Thanks, Conrad, and always enjoy being with you, buddy. I love you, and thanks to Bull Ramus. Hey, Silva's son is really trying to grow that mustache.
Dude, he's got it kicking for real.
He looks like Davy Crockett.
I'm going to get him a mustache comb for his birthday.
That's hilarious. So all you guys do such a great job. The whole staff, I appreciate it very much. And most of all, we appreciate everybody watching and listening. YouTube. Remember YouTube, Conrad. That's where we want to send everybody, because it's so much more entertaining, so much more fun. The visuals are great.
Grilling JR on YouTube.com. You know, something we need to put over there, Jim, on our YouTube channel, which is Grilling JR on YouTube.com. Do you remember when Marilyn Monroe sang that very seductive song to our president? Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Why don't you do that for Silva? His birthday's on Saturday, you know. And right now, if you want, you could give a very breathy happy birthday song to Mr. Silva, Mr. Bull Ramus?
I could, Conrad, but I think instead I'll send him a gift card to a local buffet there in Huntsville.
Well, I know where he likes to eat. Whataburger 3 times a day. All right, boys and girls, thank you so much for checking out Grilling JR. We'll be back next week talking Mid-South. In the meantime, don't forget, pick up your all-in tickets, AEWTIX.com. Watch Rampage this Friday night and spam Dave Silva on Saturday. Happy birthday, Silva. So long, everybody.
See you, everybody. Thanks. We appreciate you.
Hey guys, Eric Bischoff here, and just want to call a quick timeout. I want to tell your listeners about what I've been telling everybody at over at 83 Weeks, quite a while now, about all the cool things that are happening over at adfreeshows.com.
An all-new edition of The Insiders is here, as Conrad welcomes David Zadi, the man behind so many iconic video packages WWF fans grew up on, including one that left Vince in tears.
You got it. And Conrad, I swear, I walked outside the studio, and Vince was sitting down on the concrete floor, crying hysterically, just saying thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. I went up to the full cabin. He says, good job. Can't wait to see it. 15 minutes later in the stairwell, Vince is still sitting down in a different spot now, crying, saying thank you. Thank you.
Jim Johnston created the soundtrack for generations of WWE fans, with some of the most iconic themes in history. Jim sits down with Conrad to take us behind some of those classic themes, including The Ultimate Warrior.
And then I recorded that. And then just over that, you're just doing... You know, it's so simple, but that's what felt like him.
That's just a small taste of what we've got waiting for you with 4 levels to choose from. See for yourself why ad-free shows is the best value in wrestling today. Sign up now at adfreeshows.com.